Hello, everyone. Excuse me. It tells me that I am live. If you are in the chat, please leave a comment and let me know that you can hear me and see me. I will go ahead and just get started. This is 2 nights in a row. That is very unusual for me, but we've had a lot of questions, and I think it's important to explain a bit about the Silhouette Library and all the different things that go into it. So tonight's live is going to be pretty much an in-depth into the Silhouette Library, and then I will answer any questions that you do have on the Silhouette Library, or at the end, we can open it up for any questions that you do have. So I want to make sure first that if you are joining me for the first time, my name is EllyMae with Silhouette Secrets Plus. I am the maker and creator behind the Silhouette Secrets website. I have been teaching Silhouette users since 2016 in in-person classes, virtual events now since COVID, and also online tutorials as well as videos too. I also have step-by-step classes on my Teachable site as well. So I am really known for my troubleshooting. That's usually how people find me, and worldwide. So I do have a lot of experience. I am a user of the Silhouette software and the machines. I use them almost every day. I'm doing something with some sort of machines, technology, and crafting. So that is a little bit about my background, a little bit of the housekeeping. I do have dual monitor systems. So if you see me look to the right, I'm not ignoring you. I am looking to the YouTube to actually see if you have any questions. So YouTube is on my right, as well as my outline, which I have drafted and ready to go to keep me on track and try not to forget anything. Feel free to drop questions in the comments below. Make sure to give a thumbs up if this is helpful information for you as well. That's always good for the YouTube algorithm. First question right off the bat, great question. Stacy asks, should I update to the latest version? My opinion, my advice is no. I am not using version 5 in my everyday use of it, and I am not recommending version 5. I'm not even troubleshooting. Even on my Facebook group, I am not troubleshooting any issues with version 5 because there are too many. It is, in my opinion, it's a waste of time because it takes so much time to determine if it is a bug in the version or if it's user error. There are a lot of bugs right now in version 5 as I record this video, as it goes out live, and nothing has been fixed since it was released in December. So I am not recommending it. On that note, I will go ahead and switch over to my Silhouette Studio software so I can share with you. I am recommending right now version 4.5.812. So I'm going to go up to the top of my Silhouette software here, and I'm going to click on Help and About Silhouette Studio, and that is going to give me the information on my software. If you are on a Mac, you're going to go to the top left menu, click on Silhouette Studio, and then About, and it will give you the same information. So this information tells me right here that I have version 4.5.812. If you do have 0.815 at this time, go ahead, stay there. There's no reason to go back unless you encounter an issue. And then we would just have to, usually what happens is we troubleshoot to see what the issue is. And if we can pinpoint it to that exact version, then I may suggest going back to the legacy. But if you are already on 8.15, that is A-okay. There have been a lot of questions about the Silhouette library recently. And so I thought it was just easier to try to answer some of those live as well as give you an overview. I'm going to click OK here. If you were not on the live last night, we went through the fill gradient, and this was one that I really, really liked that we created during that live. There is a link in the description of this video below. I would highly recommend going and watching that and playing around with the fill gradients. I want to show you first off, and I'm going to use these as examples later on in the video. So I want to show you first off what I did with that one fill gradient panel that I created. I created 3 additional backgrounds using that one fill gradient design that we created last night. So a lot of options in there. So I just wanted to give you a look at that. I was so excited. I was hoping to get a video out today on how I did this, but it didn't happen. I have too many things on my to-do list that need to be done before I leave for an event. So are there any other questions before we get started? Thank you, Connie. Connie says, wow, I like that. So the basics of this is I brought in a transparent PNG file that is an alcohol ink overlay. And I will hope to get a tutorial out, but it'll be later in April. And all I did was I put it on top of my gradient. I can actually come in here and just move that off. Oh, Benita says you did a great job with the March lives. Thank you. It is something new for me. I had not done very many lives prior to the last fall, 2024. And the technology always gets to me. I don't like when I can't control things. So technology, when things don't go right, that's when it really gets to me. So March was National Craft Month. So I did a live every Monday, and I have to kind of say I kind of like them because I like the interaction with you as users to be able to, I love to teach, and being able to teach directly with your questions live on, as we go through it. It helps me to learn new things too, and to maybe do things a little bit different. But it also, I just like that interaction. It's a lot different than just recording videos and talking to a camera that does not have any opinion whatsoever. So thank you for joining in. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the library. So on my version of software, the library is in the top right corner on the library tab. And the files that are in your library, you're going to have different files than I do. On the left-hand side over here, you can see all files. It's highlighted, so it's really kind of hard to see, but I have 16,623 designs in my library. I have a fairly large silhouette library. You can see here, in my recent downloads, that is the main folder where files from the Silhouette Design Store will sync to when syncing works properly. But that is the main file that they all sync to, and then you can rearrange and move them around. Now, I will show you how you can do that. I stopped rearranging my Silhouette library when they had previous issues, and you would open it up and all of your organization was gone. So now my best friend in the Silhouette software is the search bar in the top right corner. So this is how I navigate the Silhouette library 100% of the time. I come up to the search bar, I type in what I'm looking for, and I see what files I have. Okay, so with the basic setup of your library, on the left-hand side, you have different folders. You can view all files, and that is going to be everything that is in the entire Silhouette software in the library. So that is going to be not just Silhouette Design Store files. It's also going to be anything that you have added as well, and anything you have saved to the library. And then as you go down, you have additional folders. So you can have favorites. And on this thumbnail here, since we're here, we might as well talk about it. The little star here is add to favorites. So let's see. I'll use this one here as an example, this hashtag more coffee. First, I'm going to show you this little bracket here. When you move your cursor over top of it, if you click on that, it's going to open up more information about a file. So if you're interested, this one is by Colette Hall. It is 179647. If I wanted to add that to my favorites, for instance, right now, you can see I have 416 files in my favorites. I don't ever empty that. It used to be an easy way for me to find files, but like I said, now I just use the search bar. But oftentimes, there are times I will favorite something just because then maybe if I forget I know there's a file that I was looking at, but I forgot what it might be completely. I'll go search the favorites because then it might spark that memory again. So if I click this little star, it's going to turn blue. And then you can see over here, I now have 417 files in the favorites. If I click it again, it's going to take it out of the favorites. And then that changes over here as well. And then you have fonts folder. Your fonts, we'll just click on this to expand it out. Your fonts folder is going to show you fonts that are from the Silhouette Design Store only. You cannot add fonts into the fonts folder. It is programmed into the system of the Silhouette Studio software. When the files sync from the Silhouette Design Store, that is when it loads this thumbnail image into the library. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it actually installed the entire font. Most times it does. And it really did in the beginning when they first started in 2016 with the Silhouette Cloud. However, fonts have changed drastically. Typically, a font was 26 characters. You had your A through Z and your numbers. So you had a few more characters in there if it contained numerical values. Now we see font files that are 300 characters, 900 characters. I've even seen a font file that's 1,300 characters. That is huge. So and they're called premium fonts in the Silhouette Design Store. So a premium font will sync to your library, this little thumbnail here, but it will not always install completely because it is such a large font file. It cannot automatically do that like it does with the smaller ones. So those ones you do have to download direct and install them on your computer. I will make a note and add how to install fonts to the additional resources because that wasn't on my list to cover tonight. One way that I noticed that I can tell kind of quickly that it's a premium font is it usually has in the name the dot font or it says dot something. So you can see here my Acorn font is just simply Acorn font. But I have several of these that have a period in the font name. And if I scroll down here, there's a few more. So like this one. So to me, that indicates right away that that's going to be a font. So if I see it as a thumbnail, but I do not have access to it in the text style panel, it doesn't show up, I know I need to go find that on the Silhouette Design Store, download it, and install it. Okay, so fonts here, you can also see, we'll go ahead and cover it in this. You can create your own folders. So if you come over on the left-hand side, right-click on the fonts, then you get a menu that pops up. Now, if you are on a Mac and you do not have right-click enabled, there is no way that you can get this menu. You would need to do a double tap on your trackpad on your Mac or enable right clicks for a mouse on your Mac. That's the only way I know to activate this menu. So it's a right click of your mouse and you can see here you can choose new folder. So I'm not sure what I'm going to name this new folder. Oh, look, I already have another one. The blue means that you can type in here. So I'm just going to type in test folder. And I clicked enter, so it opened that folder. So I'm going to come back out here to the fonts. And then another thing to note about premium fonts is that you cannot move them. So they will stay in your regular fonts folder. And let me just say, I could be proven wrong. There may be some that are able to be moved, but what we have found is that the premium fonts are the ones that cannot. So let's just try it here on screen. I'm just going to click on it and hold my left mouse key down, and it won't even let me drag it. I'm going to use this Abby sketch font here because I know it will move. And I'm going to left click on it. And then I'm going to move it. You can drag it into this folder up here, but sometimes it doesn't work right. So I always just drag that over into the library tree and then make sure you're on top of that folder first and let go of your mouse. And then you're going to see that move from the fonts folder to the sketch folder that I dropped it into. So I would say sometimes, as you can see, I have moved some of my fonts around. Usually I buy more than I have time to move around. So you can see I don't have everything organized. I have 767 fonts in this folder that haven't been organized. You can also see here, since I just happened upon it, that this font has not, it shows download failed. I'm not going to go too deeply into library sync issues, but there are still issues. I would right click on this and I'm going to retry download. I'm not sure it'll work or not. It is also a dot fonts. It says dot font. Okay, so the thumbnail loaded, but I may still need to install that font on my computer. So I think we covered fonts. Let me know if you have questions about fonts there. But you'll find when you're in the main folder, you'll find all of your folders at the top. And then you also have them here in the library tree. You'll see if you have folders underneath a folder that you'll have a little icon here, a plus sign that you can open it to extend that library tree, and a minus sign to minimize it. Okay. Moving on to designs. You can see here I have added several different folders. There are a couple folders that are defaults by the Silhouette. Ebooks is one of those. So if I just click on this, these are the ebooks that I have downloaded, or I have, downloaded basically from the Silhouette 101 web blog. You also have a file that's called Free with Machine. You can see here, I have 250. It tells me 250. It used to be that when you plugged in a machine, an older model machine, it would automatically just recognize that and your files would sync into the library. With a new machine, you would get 100, typically 100 for having that new machine. Now, with the advancement of technology and the other models, the Free with Machine designs are tied to your machine registration, which is what for your warranty. With that, they decided to open up and add a folder for that. So if you have an older model Silhouette machine that is like a Cameo 1, 2, and I believe all the way up to 3, and a Curio, then your Free with Machine files are just mixed in with the rest of them. Any model after that, after the Cameo, I can't remember which one the Cameo 3 did. I think the Cameo 3 was mixed in with the others, and then with the release of the Cameo 4, that's when they started this folder, because it's all automatic behind the scenes. Okay, so then I have a couple other folders here. Project Designs used to be, it used to be a category in the Silhouette Design Store on the old website. As you can see, they do not sync. This is one of the categories that did not transfer to the new store. And then if I try this, most of these, since they are project designs, most of them will not download for me, will not sync. Well, some of them are. So I'm gonna test this out. I'm gonna click on this one here, hold my shift key down, and go over here. So there's now 3 files selected, and I'm gonna right click and retry download. And then I'm gonna answer this question here. Do you know when I'll be able to download the 5? I'm running 4.4. Okay. So what I would, Jane, at this time, I am not recommending version 5, but you can either continue with 4.4 or go up to 4.5.812. If you're going to if you want to update, version 4.5.812 is what I recommend. So you can update, just don't go to version 5. That's my professional opinion there. Only my professional opinion. And that's all I can give you is my advice based on what I've seen since we have access to version 5 when they first released it to the beta group. I've been watching the entire thing. I have watched users struggle, and I've watched so many issues that either aren't resolved or take too many steps to resolve. And so that is where I base that off of. Now, it will be a while before I actually recommend it because of the when a new version is released, all the things that we've reported, the next version that comes out, hopefully Silhouette will have fixed some things. I wait and see how that affects those users who are willing to download it or haven't heard my advice not to download it. So I wait and I watch on the Facebook groups and I see what happens. So I don't typically recommend one right after it's been released. Just because then I can see what bugs there are, and it gives me an idea of that. Jane, give me just 1 second here. I am going to grab a link for you. Jane is asking how to update, and I would recommend that you check this out after the live. I will also include this in the additional resources. So even if you lose this link, it's going to be in the additional resources after the live. So that link is a video. I show you how to find the legacy version and install it. Okay, just making myself a note because I can't remember anything. Except every single bug that's in the Silhouette software for years and years back. I don't know why those things stick in my head. I said this a couple weeks ago on the live. I will forget what I went into my studio room next door. No problem. I'll forget what I went in there for. But I can remember the bugs, or maybe it's because I troubleshoot with users, and it, when I do that or when I'm testing things, that's when it sticks in my head. Okay, so some of these files are actually syncing up. I'm surprised. I'm just going to try this one more time. I selected 3 and hit retry. Who knows? Maybe I'll try that again later. Maybe they fixed it. That would be nice. Okay, I'm gonna work on that later. Recent downloads is where all of your files that aren't a specialty like project designs, all of the files sync to the Silhouette library in recent downloads. And let me just expand this. This is mine. You can again create folders here. It's not going to show all of them. That's kind of odd. I don't think I have oh, there's my bar. It disappeared for a second. So you can see I have created quite a few folders. I don't use them any longer, just because there was times where I would spend time moving files into those folders, and then the next day I'd get on and it would be all back to no organization. So like I said, I just use the search. But you can see here, currently I have 11,722 files in my recent downloads folder. And again, it'll be the same organization at the top is your folders. And then as you scroll down, you can also do things up here like sort by, and you can choose how you want those sorted. Usually I just go to like A to Z, or most times I'm using the search. Okay, so let's close that. Now, I will bring up something here. So if you do save a file to the library and you're trying to save the file to the library and you receive an error message that states you do not that it can't save that file. Typically what happens, let's just do it as an example. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm just going to copy this to a new design mat. And then, where'd it go? Oh, it's not there yet. Okay, paste. There we go. Okay, I'm going to save this file as the example. And I'm going to choose File, Save As, Save to Library. You do have to be signed in to save to your library. If this recent downloads folder right here, this is what triggers the error. If the recent downloads folder is the folder selected, and I try to save this, let's see, I want to name this pattern. That's alcohol. And then it's an alcohol ink pattern. That's why. I'm going to choose OK. It should give me an error. Oh, I didn't. Okay, it made a liar out of me. If you do encounter an error, that is why. You're not supposed to be able to save to the recent downloads folder. It saved there. That's unusual. You would want to select the user designs folder, and that's where you want to save those files. I am not sure why it actually worked, because it shouldn't. So then I also have user designs, and this is where your personal files are saved. So how it should have worked is if I go to File, Save As, Save to Library, User Designs is selected, and then it should save that file to the user designs. So these are any user designs that you've saved to your Silhouette library. And this is really what's bringing up those questions that we've been seeing. So let me go in here, and you can see it saved it to my Silhouette library. You can also see here, let me expand this out, and then I need to click there. In the bottom left corner, because I've made changes to my library, it's automatically syncing. And it's telling me uploading. Okay, it's uploading 2 remaining. So I'm not sure. You can kind of see that on the edge of my studio thing. 2 remaining. So it is syncing to the Silhouette cloud that is tied to your email and password. Your email and password have to be the same email and password that you access the Silhouette America website with and the Silhouette Design Store website with. That is where it is syncing. And that was weird. I didn't touch anything, but it jumps to my project designs folder. I don't know why. It is still syncing. So it is taking a while for those patterns to sync up. You can see here, I have 171 designs in my user designs folder. I really do not use it. The Silhouette library was designed, the cloud portion of it was designed as a syncing device. It was not designed as an all-inclusive storage area. That is why all users have 1 gigabyte. In the bottom left corner, you can see how much you have. All users have 1 gigabyte of storage. If you are a Club Silhouette subscriber, you get extra storage. Until the Silhouette website migration, Silhouette Design Store subscribers also had extra storage. I have found out last week that that is no longer the case. If you have a Silhouette Design Store subscription, it is no longer a benefit to have extra storage. So Club Silhouette members and former Club Silhouette members have started to receive an email that states unless they have a current Club Silhouette membership, their storage will be removed. All users still have 1 gigabyte of storage, but anything over that will be removed. That means you need to export your files as soon as possible. You will never regret having your files saved outside of the Silhouette software. You will regret not having them saved if something happens. At this time that I'm recording, doing this live, I do not know how they will determine what files that they delete under the user designs that are over 1 gigabyte if you are not a current Club Silhouette subscriber. Now, Club Silhouette is only available for the US. So I do not know at this time what they are going to do about anyone outside of the US. Subscription review. A question in the thing says, do you know what their plans are with users who received extra storage via subscription or via manual adjustment by customer support? I do not. My educated guess is that they do not have any way to identify those individuals, and it is just going to be a blanket. Anyone who is not a Club Silhouette member, current member, storage is going to be dropped. That is what I feel right now. That is what the letter states that Silhouette has sent to the Club Silhouette current members and former. Now, even if you are a current or former Club Silhouette, you may not have received an email. I don't know why. All I know is that I have received 2 copies from 2 different individuals in the last 2 weeks. And I have the copy of the email that I've read it, and that's what it states. You have 30 days to export your files. They will be deleted. You will not, and I do know you will not be able to recover those. Okay, so since I'm here with the user designs, I'm going to show you how you can export those. So this is a feature on versions 4.4.552 or higher. So if you are on the current version that I am recommending, you will have this option. You will have this option if you are on any version that is higher than version 4.4.522. Sorry, I say that wrong. I said it too slow. Version 4.4.552. You can actually only go back to 554. That's the only one available, but it was implemented in 552. So in the library, if you click on this little drop-down arrow next to your name, you can even click on your name, you're going to have different options. And I want to explain what these options are. Library import means that you are bringing in a file directly to the Silhouette library. I've actually never used it. I just go to File, Open in the Silhouette software, and then I save it in the library if that's what I'm doing. I typically don't do that. But I see a lot of people use library import. I also see a lot of issues with using library import, just in errors and different things. Library export, I'll go ahead and I'll click on this one. It's going to ask me, now this one, it may take a little bit of time. So maybe I don't go through all the steps. It's going to ask me where to save this. Actually, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on screen because that's what we are here for. I'm going to save. I'm just going to select this, save it into my file. You can then name it. I would highly recommend that you name it whatever you're going to remember that as. So you can name it backup and date it. So 4/1/25. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, because my library is so large, it will take longer than most users. While that's going, I will answer the questions if there's any. Once I have that location, here's the location that I have told it to save to, and I can choose export. So then it's going to start the process of exporting. Now, the disclaimer here is, and I will show you this once it's done, this is a backup file only. It cannot be opened outside of the Silhouette software. It does not contain individual files. It is a backup only that can be imported back into the software, but you only want to import that if for some reason your library is showing completely empty, or you have a corrupt library and you're trying to go back to that. Since the website migrations that started in May of 2024, I have seen issues with trying to import a backup. It just won't work. Some users, it doesn't work at all. So it is still a good idea to have a backup. The other thing I will say here is I'm always that person who thinks of like how a question that somebody has on how you can, do a workaround or something. So this one popped into my head this morning. Having a backup and trying to install that backup once Silhouette removes your storage is not going to be a way to circumvent it. You're going to end up with errors. If you have anything over that 1 gigabyte of storage, when they drop it down to 1 gigabyte, if you had a large library that was over the 1 gigabyte, it's not going to bring it in. When Silhouette does that, it's just going to have done that. So it's not going to be a way to, trying to think of the word. You're not going to be sneaky about it, is what I'm going to say. That's not what I was going for exactly, but it's not going to be sneaky. So you can see this is taking a little bit of time, but I want you to see real time. And I think it's important to understand how it works. I still recommend, and I have always recommended, saving your files to an outside location. Save your files outside, your personal files, outside of the Silhouette Studio software. Did you see the, oh, okay. It's playing games. If you're watching the little bar go, it jumped all the way to the end. I thought it was done. Then it went back. It can't make up its mind, but it is a large library. So let me just preface that. If you want to export your Silhouette designs from the library as individual files, you have to open each one and do file save as, save to hard drive for every single file. Or you go into the Silhouette Design Store and you can direct download those files from either under your orders, by order, or you click on the order and then you still have to individually download each file. Or under your Silhouette Design Store account, under the download section, and then it is still an individual download. There is no bulk download currently on the Silhouette Design Store website. There used to be, and we've requested that it come back, but there is not. Okay, so we're about halfway there. Are there any questions so far with what's going on? I want to get to the end result so I can show you how this file looks, because we do get a lot of questions there. So while that's going, let me just bring up, oh, my software kind of freaked out. Imagine that. It'll come back to full screen here in just a second. I am logging into the Silhouette Design Store off screen so I can show you what I meant. If there aren't any questions, because I don't just want to ramble. But it would help if I could type my password. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, I don't want to show that. Okay. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Because it has all my private information on there. So that's not a thing that I want to actually broadcast out to YouTube. So you'll just have to believe me. On the Silhouette Design Store website. Oh, thank you. Connie says she likes my desktop photo. It is a photo that I actually took in Hawaii at the Silhouette when I was there for Silhouette Summit. I think that was 2 years ago. The photo is from there. Okay. So let's go. I see the question there about the emptying the recycle bin. I will get to that. I have not talked about it yet, but I will. And I have a couple tips there. Benita asks, is the Club Silhouette subscription worth it if we are just hobbyists? Okay, so let me see here. I can show you that. I have my own opinion, but you need to make your own opinion. You need to, let's pull this over here. You are the only one, and the silhouette thing is going to be in front of it, but you are the only one that can make this decision. So Club Silhouette, the benefits are you get 5 gigabytes of cloud storage, and only Club Silhouette members are going to have that going forward, is my understanding. It says that you get exclusive design content, free products, and other exclusive discounts. So it is, I believe it's $9.99 a month. Well, okay, I'm not clicking the get started button because I don't want to sign up for it. It used to tell you what was included. So you get a certain number of downloads. I want to say it was 10, but don't hold me to that number. Those are supposed to like automatically sync to your library. That has been iffy since the website migration, but that is how they are supposed to work. Then you also get free shipping on orders over $50. Again, Club Silhouette is US only. If you're outside of the US, it's not available because they don't ship outside of the US and the continental US. And then you also get a cutting mat and a blade. There are selections now that you can choose because there's so many different machines and there's different blade types. So you would go in and you set up what you would want for that. The one thing I can say is that often, especially after sales, big sales that they have on the Silhouette America website, sometimes those products get back ordered. And so you don't always get them on time. They are supposed to catch that up, but you do get that every 3 months. You get the mat and the blade. So you are the only one that can decide if it is worth it for you. Some people, it may be worth it just simply for the free shipping on the orders over $50. Okay. Any other questions? We are almost there. We're at 91%. Again, my library is large. Yours probably, unless you have 16,000 designs, yours probably will not take this long. It's usually super fast, but this is actually normal for the size of my library. It does not concern me at all. So let's see. Oh, no, I already got that. Okay, almost there, 97. The countdown is on. So the main thing that I wanted to show you here is, let me pull up. Okay, I'm going to find that file, find where I saved it, which I saved it to my March folder. Okay, it is done. I'm going to come back over. I am locating that folder where I saved it to. Okay. So I told it to save. This is my live folder where I save the stuff for the live event. You can see here it has a little white page with a corner down. This typically indicates on a Windows computer that there is no program that is designed to read this file. It is a backup file only. You can see that the type is studio_library file. If you try to open this, it's going to ask what app should you open this with. There is no app that will read this. It is it's just a backup file that's designed to be imported back into the Silhouette software should you need to. I caution users on importing a backup when their library is already showing. We see things, let's see if it'll let me get out of there. I've seen things where it will duplicate your entire library twice, or things like that. So importing it doesn't always mean it's going to work right. So that is what I wanted to show you on the backup. It's still, in my opinion, it is still a good idea to have a backup. You know, better to have it and not need it, or just, you know, have it than not have it at all. So if I click back on my name again, the next one is export user created files. And you will only see this if you are using the version 4.4.552 or higher. I highly recommend it because it makes it so easy. So I have 171 files in my user designs. If I did not have that software version and have this option, I would have to open each file and I would have to use file save as and save it. If you have a few files, that's not a problem. You could easily, you know, crank that out. If you have a lot of designs, that could take forever. So you have this export user created files. It's going to be similar. It's going to ask me where I want to save this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select that same folder. So it tells me no files match because it's going to create its own folders. So I'm going to choose select folder. I should have made a new folder. I'm going to choose export. Hold on. Let's cancel out of this. Give me just 1 second. I want to make a new folder. So you'll see why here in just a second. I'm just going to make new folder. This is going to be my library export. So then when I tell it where to save, export user created, browse computer, I'm going to go back to and I'm going to choose that folder I just created. And then select folder. Now this will also depend on how many files you have in your library. If I choose export, it's going to say that it's exporting all of the files. It is exporting the library structure. So you will see every folder that you have created in your library tree. However, it does not export Silhouette Design Store files. The folder will be empty, and I can show that. We'll open the project designs folder, I think, once it's done. So it is going to do the countdown, but you can see it's going a lot faster because it's really only exporting those 171 files. Okay. Yes, the corner, that's what I don't know what it's really called. I'm not a computer tech person. I just push buttons to see what happens. And if I don't know and I get stumped, then I ask somebody who I know will probably know. Off topic. Do you have a video of how you designed your Create t-shirt? Benita, which one? The one that I posted yesterday. If that's it, then it will be coming soon. Sign up for the Silhouette Secrets newsletter because I use the file that's going to be in April's newsletter. I'll grab that link here in just a second. Let me see. Okay, so it's telling me that these files could not be exported. I'm going to take an educated guess here and say that those are the files that did not sync to my library after the website migration. It shows as download failed. If I had to guess, just looking at this list right here without actually going into my library, I'll check that in just a second. But I know that this wine aerobics, that has not synced to my library for years. I don't know why, and I don't care because I have the file saved outside of the Silhouette Studio software and I just ignore it. So I'm going to choose finished, and then let's go down here. And I bet those will be, yeah, years and years ago, I must have done something with John Deere. But these wine aerobics, see, yeah, it's the ones that show retry. So those files, it's not synced to my library. So it's not going to export that file because it's not there. The data's not there. That's exactly what it told me. Now, if I open up this folder, okay. So here's my folder. If I double click on library export, you can see that I have the folders. Let me just collapse this a little bit so we can see both. Okay. So this is my Windows folder. There's a comment that says, sounds like you've made good use of the wine aerobics lately. Actually, not really, but in the last year, I guess, yeah, it might not have been wine. It might have been a little bit of harder stuff. But you can see here that in that library export folder where I told it to save to, it now has 4 folders. That matches up with, if I go back here, it matches up with the folders that are in my library. So, but since I clicked on it, it made that disappear. So I have designs. I have designs over here in Silhouette Studio, fonts, same thing, fonts, patterns, and the recycle bin. So if I, let's expand this here so you can see my organization. So these are all the folders that are under designs. If I go back to that file, double click on designs, you're going to see all of those same folders. However, if I click on free with machine, the folders are there, but there is nothing there. It does not export Silhouette Design Store files. It will only export your user designs. So if I come down here to user designs, now you can see that it's going to have all of those files. It says I have 283, which there's a few, there's 163. So this is taking into account some other things. Oh, here, it'll be whatever's in these folders here. So those aren't in this count at the bottom of my window. Cocktails, yes, Benita says cocktails, yes. So if I come back out here, so these are your user designs. Let's go back out and I'll come back to this in just a second. Fonts, you're going to have your folders, but if I click in them, they're empty because they are Silhouette Design Store files. They do not export. Patterns, however, if you have added patterns to your library, you can add patterns into that patterns folder that's over here on the left. You can see I have quite a few. Silhouette Design Store patterns will sync to the library, but you can add your own patterns to show in the pattern fill window. Those will be exported. So you can see here, I have added patterns and they did export those patterns. Okay, now if I come back here to the user designs, I'm going to show you an example. So under designs, and I don't think there's going to be anything. The only thing that would be in recycle bin, I don't have anything there currently. So if you deleted a file that was a user design, then it would export that user design. But if you try to delete a Silhouette Design Store file, chances are it's going to come back to your library anyhow. So there's no point in even trying to delete them, especially if they're the free with machine. Free with machine always come back. So we're going to go over here into the user designs folder so I can show you this. Now I am on a Windows computer. Mac should have very similar options that you can select to be able to view in different formats. So here at the top of my Windows folder, let's just make this bigger. I choose view and then I get a list of how I want to view these. Currently it's as details, which means that it's telling me what type of file it is, the date. So it was all exported today, and it's going to tell me the size of this file. If you want to see thumbnails, click on view, and you have 2 of these. You have extra large, large, and medium. So you have, well, small too, but small is just too little for me. Sometimes this one's too little, but now you can see, and I don't know what version, I don't remember what version this was implemented in. I want to say, I'd say if I had to guess 4.3 something, 4.3 something, that thumbnails started showing on your files. Otherwise, it would just show as a silhouette icon previously. Let's see what this one is. If I move my cursor over it, it's going to bring it up. That one's actually an SVG file, an SVG that I had added to the library. And so that's why it shows with a silhouette icon, because I've told my computer to do that. I will also link that SVG silhouette. Link that in the additional resources as well. So you can see thumbnails. Let's go ahead and view these extra large. So this was a file I was working on. I actually have it sitting. Let me hold on one second. Okay, this is how I work. I'm laughing at myself because I actually have these little things right here sitting on my project tray, which is, my husband says, is my procrastination tray. I have this tiered thing that I bought years ago. It was supposed to keep you organized. These I created when I lived in Virginia, and it will be 4 years since we moved here this summer. So these have just been hanging around next to my desk for the last 4 years. I can't throw them away though, because I mean, they're just the cutest things. The idea was to put them on cards. But this also gives you an idea. This is what happens when I test. This was working on print and cut for the Cameo Pro, the Cameo 4 Pro. And all of these were test subjects that I created in order to be able to put out information on the machines. So, but the file's cute. So you can see here, I actually named it 24-inch mat because that's what I was working with. So I was testing print and cut with different size cutting mats on the Cameo 4 Pro. And I would save my files. You can see the thumbnails. It saves the entire file as the thumbnail. So you will see everything that is in that file. Here's a planar sticker one. Now, the difference here, if you do not see thumbnails, there's a couple reasons why. One is that it could be an old studio file type. Let me see. I'm going to go back here to details so I can hopefully see. No, it doesn't tell me. Oh, here. So on the left-hand side here, you can see that this one's saved as a .studio 3 file. Older files might say .studio only, if I remember right, and sometimes those do not show as thumbnails. Now, the other thing that we see is I see issues when somebody has a Windows computer, often a new one, because it is an automatic thing. I don't like it. If you saw my eyes roll there, that's why. OneDrive. Users who have it synced to OneDrive and it automatically backs up all their files that are on their computer, sometimes we see that the thumbnails won't show. Now, it's not all the time, because Sarah Clark, who's my admin, she uses OneDrive and she can see thumbnails. But other users who have it automatically synced to OneDrive cannot see those thumbnails. And that is, in my high level of tech, because OneDrive doesn't have the data to show those thumbnails. Like, it doesn't read the file that same way, not like Silhouette does. So that is how I keep it straight in my head. How you can tell, or how I can tell that somebody has files synced to OneDrive on a Windows computer, is usually in the top right corner of their image or of their file. It will have a little check mark, a little blue check mark, I think. So I'm not the only one that hates OneDrive. Connie says Corey says she hates OneDrive too. They hate. And it's not necessarily that I hate OneDrive specifically. Every user needs to decide what storage system works for them. Cloud storage is great. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I say that in that I saved my files to an external hard drive, but I learned the hard way because I wasn't backing up my files. I lost 8 months of data because my hard drive failed. My external hard drive failed. Computer hard drives fail. The safest place to have your files is in multiple locations. So if you do use a cloud storage, okay, that's not a problem. I would also have a backup plan to that, because even with cloud storage, if a server goes out, if something happens and a server crashes, it's not always recoverable. Usually they have a backup plan in most cases, but it's frustrating to lose your files and have to troubleshoot that and figure it out, even on that that company's end. On the company side of it, it takes time to figure it out. Okay, you guys are pretty quiet tonight. Any questions that have come up so far? Okay, we've covered the main thing. So number one, your challenge is, after you watch this live, to go and click on your name and export user created files. If you have put any files, if you have saved any files, if you have imported any files into the Silhouette library, export those. Even if you are under the 1 gigabyte, I would still export those, because again, you will never regret having extra copies. You may regret not having a backup. So I covered thumbnails. Oh, I do want to go back here. The other reason I mentioned, there's a couple reasons. One being an old studio file type. If your image is an older studio file, simply open that file in Silhouette and save it again. That will save it as the .studio3. And then you should see your thumbnails. The other things that can interfere was OneDrive, but Mac Sequoia OS operating system. The newest Mac operating system, there is a bug in the Silhouette software, it's not necessarily in Silhouette Studio. Something is messed up when users update to Mac Sequoia. Sequoia does not recognize how to read that Silhouette thumbnail. It has been reported. It was reported immediately as soon as Sequoia was out, thanks to my great admin, Teresa, because she is a Mac user. It is not fixed, and I don't know when it will be. It's one of those things that they have to get into. And if anybody is familiar between Windows and Mac, Mac is so much harder to work with and program, just because Apple controls it. And, using the Silhouette Studio software as an example, versions can be released, new versions of software can be released, and they aren't necessarily stamped as compatible with a Mac OS. For instance, Sequoia was released last fall. You could still use the Silhouette Studio software with Sequoia, but it didn't have the official Mac compatible stamp, because that has to go through the process of Apple, verifying that. And they have to get things. Now, sometimes can be bugs or just things that don't work properly because of things that they've changed. Usually it's one of those things you have to troubleshoot and figure out what it is, because Apple doesn't really tell you what they update or what they changed. They could make changes to the Bluetooth. That's going to affect your Silhouette Bluetooth, or could affect your Silhouette Bluetooth. But everybody blames the Silhouette machine for not connecting, but that's not always the case. We see a lot of cases, and I'm seeing a lot of cases right now, of Windows operating system updates, Windows 11 updates, and Mac updates, that Bluetooth is not working properly on the Silhouette machines afterwards. But it's not a problem with Silhouette. It is something that they changed, and now what's going to have to happen is that, in this example, Silhouette's going to have to figure out what Apple changed for both Windows and Mac in their operating system, and determine why it's not connecting as well to the Bluetooth as before. And this is why you see things overnight. So one day it'll work. Your computer does an Windows update. The next day it doesn't work. And that's where we are. So it's not always a Silhouette issue. Let's see here. Benita says, my library will not sync. I click the blue double arrow box, but nothing happens. Any thoughts? Also, I am logged into Silhouette. Okay, so let's cover that right now. In your case, for what you've described, I would go to click on your name in the top left, and then check the box, click on it for work offline. Check it, and then uncheck it. And then that is going to force a sync. And then whatever shows up after that would be the next steps we would have to troubleshoot. But that's typically what happens. That worked. Yay. Okay. Since I just got Studio for making files and do not have a machine, I have not used the library. You don't need to use the library. Let me tell you a funny story. Okay. So I have been a Silhouette user since, let's see, my youngest for 12 years now. Whoa, wow, 11 years now. About 2009 was when I started with Silhouette, but I have previous experience with Cricut and cutting machines. In 2016, we moved to Virginia from California, and I took a workshop. It was a weekend, and I was, I paid the money. I went to the workshop. I had previously mostly cut cardstock, a little bit of vinyl, and then now I cut everything. That's what started this whole journey. I had no intentions of teaching. I just went to these two events that were held by Terry Johnson, and the first one was a workshop, and I actually walked up to her during the event, and I was like, you can save to your library? How do you save to your library? I mean, I'd been a Silhouette user for 6 years at that point, I think. And is that right? 2016, 2009, 4 years, somewhere in there. I'd never saved to my Silhouette library because I came from the background of digital scrapbooking. I was using Photoshop, and you always saved your files outside of the program. I never used a software program that had storage. And maybe that's where I have trust issues. I don't trust someone else keeping my files safe. Sometimes I don't trust myself. Okay, so let's see here. So in that case, for what Benita asked, her library would not sync. She was clicking on this little blue sync, and nothing was happening. Working offline, you can choose to work offline. That means that your software will not sync. It will not try to talk to the Silhouette servers. And what I've found since they implemented that working offline option is that anytime, or if it, it'll lose connection. Even if you show it as synced in the bottom, and it's not doing anything, it just loses the connection, internet connection. So connection is broken for one reason or another. Usually it's when I travel. So I am switching Wi-Fi connections. So my internet has changed. If you have an internet outage, if for some reason your computer gets disconnected from the internet. Now I'm speculating here because this is what I've seen. It'll kick it into working offline. So it's really not connected. And honestly, do you really want it connected 100% of the time? Only you can answer that. But the way I found the easy way to fix that is you check the box and then you uncheck it again. And it just, it just kicks it in. However, sometimes you'll end up with an error. And that's why I said to Benita, depending on what it shows, then we would proceed with the next steps. Okay. Baby Jean says, I started with a Mac computer, but upgraded to Windows 11 computer last spring. I had to back up everything to a hard drive. Then when I switched computers, I think I'll just back up everything again. Yes. please do. So that is your challenge, is to back up. Export those user designs. Export a backup file, but again, it doesn't contain individual files, so it's just going to sit out there for a while. So I just have a couple more things on my list. So if I come over here to Design tab, I want to show you how to save a file. Very easily, you go up to File in the top left, or you can click this little folder that is open, the little icon. So File, oops, not open, we're saving. File, Save, or the little Save disk, the floppy disk, if people remember what a floppy disk is. File, and then you have different options. You have Save, which is like initially the first thing that you can do is when you press Save, it's going to ask you to name the file. Since I've already named this, let's just start over. I'm going to Control C. So here's a new file. It shows in the top Untitled 15. That means it's not named specifically yet. If I come up to File, Save, it's then going to ask me where I want to save it, and I can change the name. If you simply click Enter, it's going to save it as Untitled 15. So I'm going to save this. And it's going to save it as a .studio file or a Silhouette Studio version 3. Here is also in the drop down, you also have this Silhouette Studio version 2. That is the older file type. So you want to save it as a version 3. And then click OK. And let me see here. That's my user designs. If I go back out here, wrong file, fill gradient. That was last night's tutorial. I'll put that link in the description below. But I saved it as, I have a couple that are saved the same. I saved it as a studio file, so it's going to be, I put it in here. No, I didn't. Hold on a second. See, sometimes I forget where I put it too. That one's, it's not right there. Hold on a second. Alcohol ink pattern. That's it right there. Expand those. You can see this is a studio icon in the bottom. If I move my mouse over it, it says Silhouette Studio document. It tells me what date, time, and the size of it. Well, that's interesting. Benita, I will, thank you for that. I will add it, but I will drop a link here in just 1 second. So I have that alcohol ink pattern. If you want to save, if you make changes and then you just want to save it, you can just simply use Save. If you want to save it as a new file, you can choose File, Save As, Save to Hard Drive. And then it's going to ask you the same steps. So I'll do this when I'm working with a more complex file and I want to save in, say, multiple copies. So I've made a change, but I want to keep the original. I'll use File, Save As, and I'll make a new copy. Let me see here. I'm going to grab this link real quick to the external hard drive that I currently ordered. Now, I ordered it in 2023. It's still available, but you can also shop around for something else. I actually have 2 of these because I learned my lesson. So I have 2 that one is my daily use that I save to, and then the other is the one I use as a backup. Now, you may not need 4 terabytes of storage. That's what this is, but it also doesn't hurt. Come back here. So here is this, and I will add that to my, this is my affiliate link. I will add that to my list on my Amazon page. It probably is there. It's just down a ways, but I'll make sure, I'll double check that it's on my craft supplies. Oh, let me share that here too. Do we have any questions? let me just show you this page real quick since I'm bringing it on here. So I'm asked often, this is my website, SilhouetteSecrets.com. I was asked a lot. So I was asked a lot what supplies I use. So I did create a little header at the top of my website that's EllyMae's Craft Supplies. And I have list in here everything that I love. I don't recommend things that I don't love. The only time you'll see me link or recommend supplies that I don't use is like Amazon Prime days, but I just can't buy everything. And people are always looking for deals. But these are all things that I have in my studio. You'll see that it's a large list. I have been a crafter for many years. It's not something that I went out and bought everything overnight. And I have tested a lot of different things like adhesives. So I use a lot of different adhesives. I'll show this here. Behind me, I have little bins. This is my adhesive bin. So just depending on what I'm working with, I'll grab the adhesive that works best for me for those projects. So I will drop this link in there in case anybody wants to see what I use. And I tried to include some photos there too, but you can see all kinds of different things. So just in case you're curious. The final thing that I wanted to show you, and then any questions that you have, I'm just going to show you how to open. So let's go, and I'm going to actually open. I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to go to that export, the one that I did, the library export. Go to the Designs folder and under my user designs. So these are the studio files that exported. I'm going to just make these large icons so you can see those thumbnails. So I can choose one. Here's a tutorial I did that's on the website. So I made this design, and that is how you open a file. Those are .studio files. If you are a Silhouette Studio basic version, you can open .studio files, JPEG, PNG files, and DXF files. If you are on the designer edition or higher, you can then open SVG files, which are a standard, it's a scalable vector graphic is what it stands for, but it is a standard cut file. I highly recommend anybody get designer edition, at least the designer edition upgrade, because it makes your life so much easier to be able to use files easily out from outside sources. So that is pretty much it. I do have additional resources I will be adding immediately after this live ends. I will go in and add those links for what we have discussed, but I do want to open this up for any questions. Since I pulled this up, I will go out here, and while we wait for those questions to pop up, let me pull this up. This one is a tutorial I created for designing in Silhouette. Let's see if I can bring it up for you. Maybe. Yep. Okay. Found it. So this is a tutorial I did, and I'll add it also in the additional resources. But I show how I created this design. How do you put a label on a design so you can search it, or is that even possible? So what I do, my own personal, I don't label anything because just in my past, I spend all the time to label stuff, and then something happens, like a Windows update will happen and wipe out all your tags or your labels. I've seen it happen to users, and I'm like, why waste that time? So I will name the file. If I'm saving the file, I will name it with something, how I would search for it. That's the first way. Let me go in here. Let's go back to actually it's in there. Library export. Let's go back to one of my files. We'll use it as an example. view, large icons. And let's just go back to, it was that Bobcat right here. So let's see what happens. I'm on Windows, so it would be different on Mac. Mac, I think it's easier to tag. Properties. I would say it's under properties. And then you might be able to add something in here. Not digital details. No. Again, it's not something I use, so it's just one of those things that I would have to find buttons. So show all. I swear there's a way you can tag it, but that's beyond my tech. My own personal, if I'm saving the file, I just put the whatever I'm going to search for in the name, and that's how I recognize it. So I'm sorry I don't have a more edit in Notepad. Maybe you can add stuff in Notepad and it saves to the Windows folder. I'm not sure. I just don't spend the time to do it. Maybe somebody else will have a comment. So come back and see if there's one thing I will say here. If there are any updates to what I have shared in this video, for instance, the 1 GB of storage for users and only Club Silhouette subscribers getting the additional storage, any updates, I will put in the notes or in the video description. I will put it right at the top, the updates, because this is, April 2025. And if you're watching this in years down the road, some things may have changed. But let me know. I'll give it a couple more seconds for any questions. And I do appreciate those of you who joined me tonight. And hopefully the information was helpful. I hope you learned something new. Or if anything, you saw how, how I organize things or unorganized I am. And how I probably I waste time searching for things because I'm not as organized. I shared last night when I was looking at this, let me bring it up here. I shared an example of how somebody had asked how to store files. I have a folder on my external hard drive where I save all my files that I get from outside sources under digital files. Now, this is my organization that I developed when I started digital scrapbooking in 2009. So it is very, very outdated. And I have a lot of stuff in here because I was on design teams and different websites for designing scrapbook pages and using digital kits. And so I was collecting a lot of digital elements. That's how I started with everything. And then I have it organized by the store in most cases or the designer. But my organization is not going to work for everybody. When I started Silhouette, I made a folder that says Silhouette cut files. And that has been where I save all my SVG files ever since then. I know I should organize it and I should move it out of Silhouette cut files because I use them for more than just Silhouette now. And SVGs can be used in many different machines, from Glowforge to Caesar, Juliet, and Romeo to Brother Cut and Scan to Cricut Design Space. But it's just how it works for me. And maybe someday I'll have the time to do it. But okay, well, thank you everybody for joining in. And if you do think of questions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. I do come back and I read those and I answer as many as I see. Sometimes YouTube doesn't show me all of them. And so there's a few that get missed. But Jane said, you helped me so much. We all appreciate you and have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Jane. I'm so glad it helps. That makes me know that I'm doing the right thing. It's not always the fun news, especially when there's changes out there. And it has been a long, almost year. It has been rough, but I'm still here. I still am teaching, and we'll see where it goes from here. Like I said, in 2016, I had no intentions of teaching. and one thing leads to another. And I'm headed to Creativation in Seattle this coming week, all because of that start with Silhouette. So thanks everybody for joining in. If you have any questions, just let me know, and have a great night. Got to stop share first.